Okay, number 223. If 5 minus 6 over x equals x, then x, they're basically asking how many different values of x can there be? Well, we don't like x's in the bottom, so let's make sure both sides have x on the bottom. So if we had x here under something equals x, well, this x on the right side, this would become x squared, right? So x squared over x equals x. And then this would become 5x. This would be just minus 6. So now you can cancel out the x's, right? So you cancel out the x's, and then you basically get 5x minus 6 equals x squared. So I know this is a quadratic, and right off the bat, I already know the answer is 2, C. But just to do the math, x squared, bring this over, minus 5x plus 6, this factors to x minus 3, x minus 2, and x equals 3 or 2. So the answer is C, 2. Okay, so let's look at concepts. So you basically have this equation here. So it's a little bit awkward, and your job is basically to simplify it in a form that's easy for you to manipulate. And the way you want to do that is always to simplify it by putting common denominators on both sides. In this case, you put an x on the left side and x on the right side. On the left side, well, the 5, if you added an x on the bottom, you have to add it on the top, so it's basically 5x. And then the 6, well, the 6 already had an x on the bottom, so that's just minus 6. And then equals, and then x, well, since you added an x on the bottom, you have to multiply it on the top as well, so then that becomes x squared. Now you have this, you could just simply cancel out the x's on the bottom, and then you're left with a quadratic, right? So right off the bat, you have a quadratic, and for the most part, quadratics have two solutions, right? Right off the bat, you know the answer is probably 2, C, but if you factor it, you look at this and you're looking for two numbers that add up together that equal minus 5, and those same two numbers, when multiplied together, equal 6. So it turns out the two numbers you want are minus 3 and minus 2, because minus 3 minus 2 gets you to minus 5, right? Negative 3, and then you subtract 2 brings you to negative 5. And then if you multiply these two numbers, you get a positive 6. So these are the two numbers that you want, so then you factor it as x minus 3, x minus 2. Of course, you set both of these equal to 0, x equals 3, and x equals 2. So the answer here, in terms of how many different possible values that x has, well, the answer is 2, answer choice C. So as a recap, you basically have this expression and you have to simplify it. And so the way you simplify it is you make an x on the bottom for both sides and figure out what needs to go on the top to make them similar to the one that you have here. And it turns out that in the process of doing so, you add an x squared here, and once you cancel these out, then you're basically left with some kind of quadratic, right? Some kind of quadratics, some constant, something with a constant here plus another constant number. And so this quadratic, is a quadratic, and so they usually have parabola solutions like this or like this, and they basically intersect the x-axis in two locations, indicating there's two answers. And so basically you can factor this into x something times x something equals 0, and that gets you two solutions. And so of the answer choices you have available, answer choice C is what we want.